What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Onyx Report, Black Masculinist news for the day. Hope everybody is well. Yeah, man. It's been a good one. We already got some people in here. Shout out to Ron. What's up? Dr. Thunder in the house. What's going on, man? Donnie, your brother Dardar. What's up? Brother Damon, what's happening? F Holiday, Jamfar, what's up? Shout out to Omawale. Appreciate that support. That's what 34, huh? Nah, a little bit more on it, but much appreciated. Yeah, it is the solar return. It is the birthday today. Weird feeling. I hit that 48 mark, you know what I mean? And just been chilling, just been processing, relaxing. My son has decided that he's going to do a surprise dinner that he is cooking himself. So I've been asked to keep this short so that he can go ahead and do that. So he's in there marinating something. Shout out to him, So I'm happy to see it, proud of him, and much appreciative. Matter of fact, him and his boy signed my birthday card. That was a trip. Shout out to D-Rock. What's going on? Brother Mark, what's happening with you? I'm honored by that, trying to affirm the humanity of Black boys and men. Real talk. Yeah. Spain man, what's up? Taylor. Yeah, man. Brother Greg, appreciate that support. Appreciate the birthday support. Y'all know what it is. Just getting it in. Yeah. So, as I said, I promised I might keep this quick, but there's a couple, but I did want to say a couple things. One, we are actually 70 subscribers away from 30,000. So we're close to meeting the goal of 30,000 subscribers here on YouTube. So hopefully you'll spread the word, share the video, get the word out, and maybe we'll be able to crack that in the next 24 hours. So that being said, things are going well, nothing to complain about on the real, nothing, Brother Dardar, appreciate that. Brian, appreciate that. Spain man, Jamfar, yeah, Big H, all of y'all. What's up, Toya? All y'all wishing a brother well. Dion, thank you. Yeah, man, 48. Shit. I don't even know what to say about it. Oh man, I guess it means whatever you decide it means. So I haven't decided what it means, but it is what it is. So hey, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, I can't be prouder, man. I'm chilling in the house, relaxing. My son is doing his thing. We're about to we're actually filling out college applications for him. So it's on the move, you know what I mean? It's on the move. Bass Clark, if I pronounce that right, appreciate the support. He says, first time catching you live. All right. So let's get into it. This is gonna be a quick one, as I said, as I promised. And y'all saw the title, right? Do we accept when they apologize for canceling Black men? This was an interesting article that I was sent. Let me see. Well, like, share, subscribe, join, and donate if you will. Support the channel so we can continue to bring you independent Black male thought D-Rock, appreciate that support. So this is a piece that we found on WashingtonPost.com, dated September 30th of this year. And the title is I regret calling for Justin Fairfax to resign. This is written by Sophia Nelson, or Sophia A. Nelson, right? This is a Black woman, and I'll get into her in a little bit. But let's explore a little bit about what she's talking about. Shout out to Wrench Turner. Appreciate that support, man. Yeah. Leo was good. Big H says 48 and in good health. Run with it. Real. Hey, man, that's real. That's real. So, there you go. Right. Then Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax presides over the state Senate on February 7, 2019 in Richmond. Picture of him there. Gerald, appreciate the Cash App. Thank you. Right. And so it reads. And this is okay. So Sophia A. Nelson, a former House Republican Congressional Committee counsel, is the author of Be the One You Need, 21 Life Lessons I Learned Taking Care of Everyone But Me, right? So it says former Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, Democrat, was once a shining rising star in Virginia politics, a young, well-educated Black man with a lovely wife and beautiful children, all by his late 30s, a former federal prosecutor with a spotless personal and ethical record and a great future ahead, until the bottom fell out in early 2019 when two accused him of sexual assault decades prior. Right? You've seen a lot of this in the last couple of years, most particularly. He became a target for the Me Too movement, but evidence has emerged recently that Fairfax might have been the victim of a coordinated smear campaign. You don't say. Interesting. A July Post article reported that the FBI is looking into the allegations. Fairfax has been appearing on any platform that will have him to clear his name. Unfortunately, he has had very few takers. Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why Black men had to come and create their own platforms, because nobody's going out their way to give Black men one. They will give other demographics a platform, not necessarily Black men. So what happens when your reputation is besmirched to such a point where your income, your career, all of that is gone? What public platform do you have to defend yourself, especially if the allegations are false? Says, so this is Sophia talking. She says, thankfully, I was among the journalists who reviewed the new information, and I was stunned by what I learned. As a Black woman who was victim of sexual assault as a young girl, she had to include that. Okay. I had immediate empathy for the women who accused Fairfax. After all, we should believe women when they share their stories, right? Of course. But looking back now at how hard I was on Fairfax, I think I was wrong. I think we all were. Like millions of women, I bought into the sensationalism, the sordid tale of alleged violence and Machiavellian political intrigue. What sealed the deal for me, though, was the CBS This Morning interview with Gayle King. Now, I see how cruel what we did to Fairfax and his family was. He was presumed guilty. He was labeled a rapist. He received no due process, no trial, no hearings, no investigation. He could not clear his name. To this day, he is still trying. That is the point. Once we get whipped into a media frenzy, common sense goes out the window. Fairfax isn't the only one who's been hurt here in Virginia by our modern cancel culture. Now, this is where it gets interesting to me. This is where it was interesting. I was paying attention, to where she was going with this. She acknowledged that she may have been wrong. There was a fervor going on. They attacked him. You had at least her and Gayle King, no doubt many others, denying him even the opportunity to defend himself on the predicated notion that believe all women was a thing. But from here, she says another example, right, is Monique Miles, a smart Black female lawyer and former Virginia Deputy Attorney General, who claimed in a recent lawsuit that she was the victim of a concerted conspiracy to defame and push her out of the Attorney General's office over a Facebook post supporting the January 6, 2021 Stop the Steal rally in Washington. Ironically, other elected state GOP officials and staff attended the January 6 rally. None was forced to resign. They were all white. That's the end of what she says about Monique Miles, right? Short paragraph. Shout out to Richard for the Cash App. Much appreciated. So very short. So she starts out, the article's titled in regard to Justin Fairfax, right? What was done to him, the attack on his reputation. She then switches the conversation to how others suffer these attacks. She mentions this Monique Miles, Black female lawyer, who supported apparently in some way, shape, or form the Washington, um, you know, uh, Stop the Steal rally or whatever. And then she quickly switches to herself. Now, if you're not familiar, this is Sophia Nelson here. And Sophia Nelson was known for earlier, I forget when this happened. I think this was 2021. But anyway, so she was responding to the whole Superman. And if you follow the comics, Superman's son, Jonathan, came out as bisexual. And the comics actually were really good. When Jonathan was a little boy, him and Robin were doing things together. It was actually really good. And then for some reason, they made him a teenager overnight, which I thought was stupid. And then they rushed him into this bisexuality thing in this ploy to kind of latch on to the LGBT and feminist readership. It didn't go well. I mean, the first issue, of course, everybody was paying attention because now Superman is gay. And by the way, for a while, his father, Superman, kind of abdicated the position and gave it to Jonathan. So Jonathan is now Earth's Superman. And by the way, he's bisexual. So that got a lot of attention. And so Sophia A. Nelson put out some tweets along those lines critiquing the sexualization of material for children's consumption. Right? She talked about this, and she was pretty much hazed in the public for doing so. Right? And so she's, considered award-winning, best-selling author, journalist, political analyst, with a lot of life lessons to share. But when she came public with her opinion, especially along the lines of, questioning, as she says here, what if Christian parents of children reading comic books don't want their kids exposed to bisexual characters? This is being pushed on kids. Then parents have to explain it. Most cannot. Nelson was ridiculed by LGBT students, their allies, and faculty members at CNU after questioning the sexualization of children in comic books. As a result, she was driven out of the Newport News, Virginia University, for her views. Right? So going back to the first article, she talks about herself, and she talks about, she doesn't even really go into what happened. She just says 3 weeks into a historic scholar in residence at Virginia Public University with a poor record of enrolling Black students and hiring Black faculty and staff, I found myself embroiled in controversy, protests, and petitions over a tweet about a question I asked during the 2021 Virginia gubernatorial election in Virginia, which was partly decided on parental rights issues, about a Superman DC comic book character coming out as bisexual. It was without a doubt the worst experience in my over 30-year professional career, right? So keep the narrative. So the article's titled around Justin Fairfax. She mentions a few things that are important, that are leading up to somewhere, and then it quickly switches to a Black female lawyer, and then it switches to herself. And from there, she talks about, just kind of the impact of cancel culture. And she says, so what does it all mean? In Virginia, there are 3 Black women in positions of power. She names them. The latter 2 are in their 70s. We have 2 Black members of Congress, both older than 60. We've yet to see a Black attorney general, and of all of Virginia's universities, other than our 5 historic Black colleges and universities, and George Mason University and Old Dominion University, which have Black presidents, are sorely lacking in racial diversity of faculty and leadership. More than 20% of Virginia's population is Black. And she kind of goes on from there. She says, sure, politics and academia have always been rough, yet something is now deeply amiss. We now play a game of gotcha. We silence differing views. We ban books we don't like. We tell women what they can and cannot do with their own bodies. We tell people they must conform to the prevailing view no matter their own beliefs or moral code. That is simply unsustainable in a free democratic society. Shaming people and canceling careers never advanced civility or fostered mutual respect. Once someone is labeled a racist, a rapist, or a homophobe, it's over without due process. Cancel culture is more than some catchy political phrase. It's happening to people every day, and its effects are damaging and lasting. Trust me, I know. So why am I reading this? I appreciated the acknowledgement, but, I noticed the politics of switching a titled article or opinion piece in the Washington Post entitled, I regret calling for Justin Fairfax to resign, and noticed that she made it about 3 people, 2 of whom were women. One was, according to her, maligned on the basis of race. The other herself maligned as really the subtext to it for her is a Christian woman questioning the sexualization of children's media. But she does this kind of game that takes it away from looking at the particular effects of, say, Me Too on Black men. And she makes it just about this generic idea of discrimination. And By the way, 2 out of the 3 people discriminated against were women, right? This kind of tamps down the impact, or really the question, of how much cancel culture um, dramatically impacts Black men at a level that we've not seen when it comes to Black women or any other demographic for the most part. I mean, white men deal with this, there's no question. But with Black men, there's a particularly different kind of impact because, for the most part, many of us don't have the support, the structural support, the institutional support, even the familial inheritance to navigate these waters effectively. So if you're maligned as a Black man on the basis of race, that's one thing. If you're maligned because of your religious beliefs, that's a whole other thing. But when you're maligned because you are Black and male, and the subtext is that you are somehow responsible for the sexual assault and or rape of a particular person, and women like Gayle King come at you in the public, women like Sophia A. Nelson come at you in public, attack you from their platforms on the basis of being male and Black, and somehow invoking this idea of an oppressive patriarchy that Black men have not only not enjoyed or been a part of, but actually been subject to. It leads us to a whole different set of questions that publicly people still don't want to talk about. So even in this piece where she raises the possibility of going there, she quickly changes the subject and makes the focus about another woman and herself. So now, yet again, we don't really talk about anti-Black misandry. We don't talk about the specific impact of Me Too on Black men. We're just generically talking about discrimination. And again, subtext is this really impacts women more than men, because out of the 3 people she chose to look at, despite how she titled the article, 2 out of 3 were women. So yet again, almost there, but they're not. So I asked the question in the title of the article: do we accept these kind of apologies when they don't really deal with the subject, when they deflect from getting to the point, when they don't really get to the bottom, the root of the issue as it pertains to what makes Black men, most particularly, vulnerable in a way that we haven't been able to look? You got Black men like George Foreman being falsely accused of sexual assault back in the 70s. You got brothers in their graves being accused of this shit. Rick James is dead, can't even defend himself. Wilt Chamberlain, dead, can't even defend himself. These people waited until these people died, maligned them in public. They can't defend themselves. They're accused, their memories, the memory of them permanently besmirched by accusations that aren't proven one way or another. And half the time, these people don't even have to come forward and admit who they are. They're not even open to public scrutiny about their backgrounds, their political motivations, or financial motivations. None of it is put on the table for the public to peruse. But the memory of even dead Black men are permanently marked. Permanently. And even when you have men who are guilty, to where most of the public doesn't deny that they're engaged in something, even if it may not be to the full extent of what they're accused, even Black men accept that men like R. Kelly and Bill Cosby did things worthy of scrutiny, maybe even worthy of prison. But somehow the people associated with them, especially if they're women, don't nobody want to talk about that. So when the conversation about Ime Udoka came up, and Stephen A. Smith and others asked the question about women who participated, because, again, he was not accused of violating somebody. He was accused of consensual relationships with other Celtics employees, which means that a number of people violated Celtics policy. As we were told by Malika Andrews, you can't talk about the women, right? So again, whether dead, whether, publicly maligned like Ime, whether even guilty, we can't talk about those who are participatory, those who are present, those who falsely attack somebody who was innocent, like in the case of Justin Fairfax. We can't talk about those people intelligently and go full tilt because we're not allowed to. And Black men, lacking the platforms to do so, are doing it on their own. And what's done? Well, the whole genre is dismissed. Black men as a whole have to be dismissed. Whether you're talking about the manosphere or whether you're talking about just, individual Black men who have something to say, can't be heard. And this is a problem. This is a problem because at the end of the day, if Black men cannot be heard, most particularly when they're innocent, And those who are actually championing them and apologizing for their past treatment of those likely innocent men, they themselves will change the subject to dampen the impact of what the subject really is. Because to me, the subject is anti-Black misandry. How is it that these kinds of accusations impact Black men in a very particular way, and yet nobody else can be talked about? Does the legacy of stereotype regarding Black men as somehow these sexual monsters, does that not further impact how even false accusations frame how we're perceived? Again, when we look at the data, we look at how Black men are even sentenced in prisons. We're sentenced more than any other demographic for the same crimes that others commit. Men in general are sentenced 65% more than women for the same crimes, but Black men are sentenced even more than that, not only in relation to women, but in relation to other groups of men. So you can't tell me when false accusations occur that these kind of mealy-mouthed, half-ass apologies of, I regret doing it, but by the way, there are two other women, and myself included, that were maligned, and this cancel culture thing is bad. Okay, yeah, it is bad. I have problems with it. But let's not act like it hits everybody the same way. Everybody doesn't have the same history, most particularly in regard to media and how media reads us. We don't have the same history. So if you're going to have a public discussion about how this hits us, then a rising tides lifts all boat approach doesn't work for Black men. We have to actually have a very specific conversation about the increased detriment that these kinds of conversations have about Black men. Because I'm going to tell you, when the Ime Udoka stuff dropped a couple weeks ago, before I got any details, they made it sound like that man had tied somebody down in public and raped them in front of everybody. And then by the time you found out it was a consensual relationship, the problem was just the politics of who it was with. It was like, really? Y'all couldn't handle this in-house? I mean, people have consensual sex at work all the time. And if you do work at a place that has policies against it, it doesn't have to become national news to deal with it. But if it's going to be national news, don't act like Ime Udoka is not going to have a different read, and people aren't going to read him differently than they would somebody else. Especially when you got Brett Favre in the news for stealing millions of dollars of welfare, but the conversation still has to be on this man who slept with someone consensually. Oh, and by the way, he cheated on his girlfriend, who happens to be a celebrity darling. So that has to be the news of the day. But they still treated the man like he was guilty of sexual assault. Half the people running around here out here talking about Ime can't tell you exactly what he did, or at least up until like a week ago, and would still treat him like he did something vicious. And I'm saying, look, if he did, come out with it. Tell us what it is. But from my understanding, still to this day, I haven't heard anything beyond consensual. So my point simply is, when Black men are maligned publicly, our image needs to be repaired publicly, not half-assed, not tap danced around, not lumped in with a bunch of other people, and certainly not presented in an article where the subtext is that Black women really do deal with this more than Black men, because of the three people we're going to talk about, two of which are Black women. So cancel culture is just bad across the board. Bullshit. Black men have a whole different experience. So let me see. Shout out to the Quizzard, Ados, passing the collection plate. Please do. War Child Games, appreciate that support. Shout out to Victor Creed. They just did that to Robin Tim Drake. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah. So that's that's what we're looking at, and we gotta push back on this, and be clear about what we experience. Shout out to Gerald. Shout out to Richard for the support. Thank you very much on the Cash App. I hope y'all have a good one. I got to get in here and see what this boy is cooking, and might have to figure out what to make alongside it. Last time that happened, he made like the meat, and that was like it. so we gonna have to diversify it a little bit. But hey man, I'm proud of the kid, and I am blown away. He snuck a cake home. Like he didn't want me to, he didn't want to drive today because we've been driving to school, right? He got his permit. So we've been driving to and from school every day. He actually requested that we not drive. He wanted to take the bus, and he did that just so he could buy a cake and walk it home. So shout out to my son. Much appreciated. Shout out to all of you, especially those of you that wished me a blessed solar return, a happy birthday. It is much appreciated. And I will leave it at that. So y'all have a good night. And I look forward to hearing your comments about this. Let me know if I missed something. Let me know if there's something else to consider in this. And give me your thoughts. And especially those who have experiences similar to Fairfax, where, I want you to weigh in and share with us, what you may have to say about this kind of thing. Because there's, on a micro level, brothers deal with this all the time. I can't tell you in the last 3 years how many brothers have reached out to me and told me stories about how women in particular in the workplace have accused them and used this as a power flex to have their way, whether it's getting them fired, whether it's getting them demoted, whether it's having their records adjusted in a negative manner, all kinds of things, sometimes for the purpose of vengeance, sometimes just because it was Tuesday. But, again, share your stories. Other than that, y'all have a good night. Peace.